power of never giving up. Amir sat on the edge of his bed in a small, dimly lit room. The cracked walls seemed to whisper his struggles back to him. Life had not been kind so far. His family barely made enough to cover food and rent. Dreams of education, travel, or even starting his own business felt like stars in the night sky, beautiful, but too far away to touch. Every morning, Amir woke up at 5 a.m. to work at a small shop in his neighborhood. The pay was low, but it helped keep the family afloat. He carried heavy boxes, swept the floors, and ran errands for customers. At night, when his body begged him to rest, he pulled out old notebooks and studied by candlelight. The electricity often failed, but his determination burned brighter than any lamp. Amir's friends often laughed at him. "Why waste time studying?" they said. "You'll end up here forever, just like us." Their words stung, but deep down, Amir knew he wanted more from life. He wanted to prove not just to them, but to himself that where you start doesn't decide where you finish. Still, doubt lived inside him. On difficult days, when his stomach ached from skipping meals and his body was sore from endless work, Amir questioned everything. Is success even possible for someone like me? Maybe I should just accept my fate. But then he remembered his father's words. His father, though uneducated, always told him, "Son, a diamond is just a rock that refused to break under pressure. If you stay strong, one day you will shine." Those words echoed in his heart, giving him strength when everything else seemed against him. One evening, after another exhausting day, Amir walked home past a large bookstore. Through the window, he saw shelves stacked with books, knowledge, stories, the list of them all locked away behind glass he couldn't afford to open. He stood there for several minutes, pressing his hand against the glass, imagining what it would feel like to own just one of those books. That night, as he lay on his bed staring at the cracked ceiling, a thought struck him. If I don't fight for my dreams now, then when? If I give up, my whole life will stay like this forever. For the first time, Amir made a silent promise to himself. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I will find a way out of this life. I will learn, I will work, and I will never give up. It was a small seed of determination, but like all seeds, it had the potential to grow into something extraordinary. What Amir didn't know was that this simple decision to refuse defeat would one day change not only his life, but also the lives of many others. The journey had just begun. The next few months tested Amir's promise to himself. Determined to learn, he borrowed old books from neighbors and even picked up torn newspapers from the street, reading every article he could. Sometimes the words felt like a foreign language, but he forced himself to understand. One day, he heard about a small scholarship program offered by a local organization. It wasn't much, but it promised free tuition for students who showed determination. His heart raced. This could be my chance. For weeks, Amir prepared for the exam. He studied late into the night, barely sleeping, memorizing formulas and writing practice essays by candlelight. When the day of the test arrived, he walked into the examination hall with shaky hands but a hopeful heart. Hours later, as the results were posted on a wooden board outside, Amir's eyes scanned the list eagerly. His heart sank when he realized his name wasn't there. He had failed. The world seemed to crumble around him. On his way home, every step felt heavier than the last. His friends mocked him when they heard, "We told you, Amir. Studying won't change anything. Look at you, still the same boy working at the shop." That night, Amir sat in silence, staring at the candle flickering beside him. Doubt whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe success isn't for me." But then he remembered something. Failure wasn't the opposite of success. It was a part of it. He thought of inventors, leaders, and thinkers he had read about. They all failed before they succeeded. Why should his path be any different? The next morning, Amir returned to work with renewed determination. While stacking boxes, he whispered to himself, "Failure is not the end. It is only a lesson." And indeed, it was. He realized that during his preparation, he had studied alone, without guidance, and wasted time on things that weren't necessary. This failure taught him the importance of strategy, discipline, and seeking help. From then on, Amir changed his approach. He began visiting the local library regularly, where he met an elderly man named Kareem, a retired teacher who volunteered to help struggling students. When Amir explained his dream, Kareem smiled warmly. "You remind me of myself when I was your age," the old man said. "Remember this, hard work is important, but smart work makes the difference." Under Kareem's guidance, Amir improved step by step. He didn't become a genius overnight, but every day he grew sharper, more disciplined, and more confident. Still, life outside his studies wasn't easy. His family often depended on his wages, forcing him to work long hours while trying to learn. Sometimes exhaustion nearly broke him, but he pushed forward, repeating to himself, "A diamond is just a rock that refused to break." Months later, another opportunity appeared, a new exam for a technical training program. It wasn't as prestigious as the scholarship, but it promised skills that could lead to better jobs. Amir knew this was his second chance. It's time he walked into the exam hall, not just with hope, but with preparation, strategy, and confidence. The exam hall was crowded, filled with young men and women who all carried the same hope opportunity. Amir sat at his desk, his hands steady this time. He remembered Karim's advice. "Don't panic, focus on what you know, and trust your preparation." When the papers were handed out, Amir took a deep breath. Questions weren't easy, but unlike before, he had a strategy. He tackled the ones he knew first, carefully managing his time. For the first time, he didn't feel like a helpless boy staring at an impossible mountain. He felt like a climber, step by step moving upward. Weeks later, the results were announced. Amir hesitated before walking up to the board. His heart pounded as he scanned the list of names. And then there it was. Amir Rahimi. Accepted. Couldn't believe his eyes. For a moment, he just stood there, frozen, until a wide smile spread across his face. His first real victory. When he ran home to tell his family, his mother cried tears of joy. His father, usually a quiet man, placed his hand on Amir's shoulder and said, "Son, today you proved that our struggles were not in vain." That moment changed everything. For the first time, Amir felt the weight of possibility. This small success was proof that his hard work could lead to something greater. The training program wasn't luxurious. Classrooms were old, the chairs uncomfortable, and the equipment outdated. But to Amir, it was a palace of knowledge. He attended every class with full attention, often staying behind to ask teachers extra questions. While others complained about the lack of resources, Amir saw opportunity in every lesson. Still, the journey wasn't smooth. To cover transportation and food, he continued working at the shop in the evenings. Some days, he barely slept. On others, he had to choose between eating lunch and buying books. But instead of seeing these hardships as chains, Amir began to view them as weights in a gym, painful but strengthening him with every lift. One day, while cleaning at the shop, Amir overheard two businessmen talking about the future of technology and how skills in computers and engineering were becoming valuable. Their conversation sparked something in him. That evening, he rushed to Kareem and asked, "Do you think I can learn computers? I've never even touched one before." Kareem chuckled, but then nodded. "Why not? Every expert was once a beginner. If you want, I'll help you find a way." That single decision to explore a new skill became a turning point in Amir's life. He started spending hours in an internet cafe, renting old computers by the hour, learning, typing, basic programming, and even reading about entrepreneurs who built empires from nothing. The more he learned, the more his vision expanded. He no longer dreamed only of escaping poverty. He dreamed of creating something meaningful, something that could change lives. For the first time, Amir saw his path not as a narrow, dark road, but as a wide horizon filled with possibilities. He didn't know it yet. But this shift in mindset from survival to growth was the key that would unlock the next chapter of his destiny. Amir's world was beginning to change. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just reacting to circumstances, he was creating them. His days had structure, his nights had purpose, and his mind had vision. The routine was brutal. He woke at 5 a.m. to squeeze in 2 hours of study before heading to the training center. After classes, he went straight to the shop, where he worked until late evening. At night, when others rested, he often walked to the internet cafe, hungry for knowledge. Couldn't afford more than a couple of hours, but those hours were gold. He taught himself how to type faster, how to use spreadsheets, and slowly dipped his toes into programming basics. At first, the strange symbols and codes felt impossible, but Amir had learned something from his failure's patience. Instead of giving up when he didn't understand, he broke the lessons into small pieces and mastered them one step at a time. Discipline became his new best friend. While his friends wasted hours scrolling on their phones or sitting idly at tea shops, Amir treated every minute as an investment. He carried notebooks everywhere, jotting down new ideas, quotes from books, and problems he wanted to solve. But it wasn't just about studying. Amir began to transform his mindset. Karim often reminded him, "Success is not only about skills, Amir. It is about habits. If you control your habits, you control your future." So Amir worked on small daily disciplines. He woke up at the same time every day, no matter how late he slept. He forced himself to exercise, even if it was just push-ups in his tiny room, because he understood that a strong body supported a strong mind. He limited his time with negative people and surrounded himself with those who encouraged growth. Yet challenges still came. Money was tight. There were days when his stomach growled because he skipped meals to save for cafe hours. Once, the shop owner cut his pay, saying business was slow. That night, Amir almost broke. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if all this sacrifice was even worth it. But then he reminded himself of his father's words and Karim's guidance. He thought of the bookstore window, the shelves of knowledge waiting for him, and slowly he rose again. "Discipline is doing what you must do, even when you don't feel like it," he whispered to himself. Months turned into years. By the end of his training program, Amir wasn't just another student. He had become one of the best. Teachers noticed his hunger for knowledge, and some even recommended him for internships. He started taking small freelance jobs, fixing computers and helping with basic software. The pay was tiny, but it was proof that his skills were valuable. Each success, no matter how small, was a brick in the foundation he was building. Amir wasn't rich yet. He wasn't famous, but he was no longer the boy who only dreamed while staring at books behind glass. He was on the path, disciplined and skillful, and for the first time, he could see a future that looked brighter than his past. And just when everything seemed to be aligning, life threw him new obstacles tests that would determine whether he truly had the strength to keep moving forward. Success, Amir was learning, wasn't a straight line upward. It was a staircase with missing steps, slippery edges, and unexpected falls. At first, things looked promising. With his growing skills, he managed to secure a small internship at a local tech company. It wasn't glamorous most of the time. He was fixing broken printers or organizing files, but for Amir, just being inside an office filled with computers felt like stepping into another world. For the first few weeks, he was unstoppable. He worked hard, asked questions, and absorbed knowledge like a sponge. But soon, reality hit. The tasks became harder, and the pressure grew. Unlike the internet cafe, where he could learn at his own pace, here mistakes had consequences. One wrong line of code cost the company hours of delay, and his supervisor scolded him in front of others. That night, as Amir walked home, shame and frustration weighed him down. "Maybe I'm not good enough for this world," he thought. "Maybe my friends were right. I should have stayed at the shop." As if that wasn't enough, his family's struggles deepened. His father fell ill, and medical bills piled up. Amir took on extra shifts at the shop again, cutting into his study time. He often returned home past midnight, exhausted, only to wake before dawn and repeat the cycle. His body grew weaker, and his grades at the training center started to slip. Doubt became a constant companion. Some mornings, he stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror and barely recognized himself. "What's the point?" he whispered once, his voice trembling. But then he remembered the promise he had made to himself that night, lying under the cracked ceiling, when he swore he would never give up, and he thought of Karim's words. "Amir, storms don't last forever, but strong men do. Still, even strong men stumble." One day on his way to work, Amir saw his friends lounging at the tea shop. They called him over. "Look at you," one of them laughed. "Always running, always tired. And for what? You're still poor. You're still nobody." Their words cut deep, reopening old wounds. But instead of responding with anger, Amir simply smiled and walked away. He realized something powerful in that moment. They had chosen comfort, while he had chosen growth. Growth, though painful, was worth more than comfort ever could be. That evening he sat with Kareem, pouring out his frustrations. The old teacher listened quietly, then said, "Amir, setbacks are not signs of weakness. They are tests. Life asks you, how badly do you really want this? If you quit now, it means your dream was never strong enough. If you keep moving, even slowly, you will arrive." Those words reignited a small fire inside Amir. He decided to push forward, no matter how heavy the burden. He reorganized his routine, carving out even short pockets of time for study. He learned to manage stress, practicing patience when mistakes happened. And most importantly, he held on to the belief that these struggles were not permanent. Little did he know, these very hardships, the illness of his father, the failures at work, the exhaustion, were shaping him into someone far stronger than he ever imagined. And soon his perseverance would lead to the biggest breakthrough of his journey. One cold morning, Amir sat in the office, hunched over a malfunctioning computer. His supervisor, frustrated as usual, barked, "Fix it quickly, Amir. We can't waste time." Amir's hands trembled as he opened the system. He wasn't sure if he could handle it. But instead of panicking, he remembered Kareem's lessons. Break the problem into smaller parts. Slowly, patiently, Amir worked step by step until the system roared back to life. The supervisor, surprised, muttered, "Not bad." That small acknowledgement, though far from praise, gave Amir the confidence he needed. From then on, he approached every task differently, not as a burden, but as a challenge to grow. Weeks later, the company faced a serious issue. Key software project was failing, and the team couldn't meet the deadline. Senior employees were struggling, tensions were high, and the boss threatened to cancel the contract altogether. Amir, though just an intern, had been quietly studying similar problems in his free time at the internet cafe. Summoning courage, he approached the team and hesitantly offered a suggestion. At first, they brushed him off. "You're just a trainee. Stay out of this." But as hours passed and no solution appeared, desperation forced them to listen. Amir walked them through his idea. With nothing to lose, they tried it, and to everyone's shock, it worked. The project was saved. The next day, the company director called Amir into his office. "Young man," he said, leaning forward with a curious smile, "where did you learn to think like that?" Amir swallowed nervously. "Sir, I study whenever I can. I don't know everything, but I never stop learning." The director nodded. "That's exactly the kind of person we need." In that moment, Amir's life shifted. He was no longer just the poor boy working at a shop. He had proven his value, not through luck, but through persistence, discipline, and the refusal to quit. Soon after, the company offered him a small but official position, not as an intern, but as a junior technician. The salary wasn't huge, but it was more than Amir had ever earned. For the first time, he could help his family with dignity, pay for his father's medicines, and even save a little. But the breakthrough wasn't only financial, it was mental. Amir realized that success doesn't come all at once, it comes in moments. Like bricks, one stacked upon another until a strong foundation is built. He began setting bigger goals. He wanted to move beyond being an employee. He dreamed of creating his own opportunities, maybe even his own business someday. At night, as he walked home under the stars, Amir thought of his journey, the failures, the hunger, the exhaustion, the doubt. Each struggle had been a teacher, shaping him for this moment. "Maybe this is just the beginning," he whispered to himself. And he was right. This breakthrough wasn't the end of Amir's story. It was the door opening to a much larger world, one where he would not only rise higher, but also inspire countless others who were still standing in front of their own locked doors, waiting for the courage to knock. And remember, if you found this story inspiring, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Next Level English for more motivational stories that can change your life.